What's up, passionate Pokemon players? I'm Ryan, and we're here for another episode of the Hawks Pokemon Nest. Getting into another dark deck this time. After last week, we went with Weezing. This time we are going with Gengar Ex, who's in that last deck, but this one is actually featuring our Gengar EX. We are going to get into the cards in deck, what they all do, every single card. We'll go through the strategies, strengths, and weaknesses of the deck. Then we'll finish off by getting into some of the other cards to consider swapping in or out of the deck. If you want to see this deck in action, make sure you stay tuned for the video coming out later this week, which will take this to the test on TCG Live. But for now, let's get into the deck. And we've got the deck list up right here on the left-hand side. Check it out. We'll start off with the Pokemon. We've got Fezandipiti EX times 1. I only threw 1 in there. It's not extremely important to have the Fez in there. I mean, it does help you draw the 3 if one of your Pokemon gets knocked out. It kind of acts as like a backup Pokemon too. I kind of do want 2 in there, but I just couldn't find a spot for it. Maybe you can get rid of a Poffin to put him in. I don't know. But I'm going to throw in just the 1 of him. And using Flip the Script is really what he's there for, to help us draw upon a Pokemon being knocked out. It does have his Cruel Arrow, which can be used in a pinch. So far, I have not used it at all, but you know, you might find a use for it. Then we have Gastly. Now, this time, those of you who watched my last video, I had the whole Gastly, Haunter, Gengar evolution, more so Gastly and Gengar. I didn't have a Haunter, but in that one I was going with a different one. I don't remember from what set, but I went with the one who had the 1 energy attack to draw a card. Now this one I went with Mysterious Beam, and I'm still a little on the fence about it, to be honest, but this deck is a more disruptive leaning deck. So I think any opportunity for potentially disrupting, discarding their energy, I'm going to take it. So I threw in this Gastly with Mysterious Beam. Flip a coin if heads, discarding energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Again, our Gastly, we don't want him inactive, but if he does get caught there, you know what, we'll use a Mysterious Beam and kind of move forward. We're going to throw 4 of them. This is from the Temporal Fates. Now, I threw in 2 Haunters. Honestly, I don't know if it matters what Haunter you want to throw in there. I'm not 100% sure, but this one could even it could be one of, if not the only, dark ones anyway. But I think Super Poison Breath is a solid one to go with, because it does use 2 energy, and it does poison their active Pokemon, dealing 30 damage from there. Hopefully he'll survive if you have him in the active, and then you can just evolve him to a Gengar the next turn. Now, here's where our deck is built around, which is our Gengar EX. Such a fun card. So he has 310 HP, so pretty beefy, not the highest HP of the stage 2 EXs, but enough to where he may be able to take 2, maybe even 3 hits, depending on who your opponent's attacking Pokemon is. But he does have the ability Gnawing Curse. Whenever your opponent attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their Pokemon, to put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. And remember that ability does stack. So the more Gengars we can throw on our bench and get evolved, not only are we going to be ready for them to attack, but it's also going to cause them to put 2 more damage counters on that Pokemon. Not bad. And then from there, its attack is Tricky Steps, 160, so not dealing a ton of damage, but notice its ability. You may move an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon to one of their bench Pokemon. So pretty solid. It can potentially kind of put your opponent at a disadvantage and maybe even make them not be able to attack you. It's definitely going to make them play differently. You're going to see them a lot of times attaching an extra energy to their active Pokemon or to whoever they want to attack in order to get around this ability, which then maybe from there you can even use it to your advantage of trapping another Pokemon out there with a boss's orders or a Prime Catcher, which you'll see is also on our list. So very simple. We don't have many Pokemon, which is a good and a bad thing. It means that you're usually going to get a Gastly, and if you get a Fezandipiti inactive, it's not the worst thing in the world. So that's pretty good, but also means that we don't have a ton to work with here. So let's get into some of the trainers, which we do have a lot of since we don't have many Pokemon. The classic Poffins. Throw in 4 of them. Crushing Hammer. Again, as this, I really went all out in terms of energies with this deck, right? Since Gengar's ability is moving energy off, then let's also try to discard energy from them as well. So the Crushing Hammer is going to let us do that. I'm going to have 4 of them. 3 Earthen Vessels. I found early in play I didn't have this card in there. I found myself sometimes kind of lacking energy. I am only playing 10, which aren't pictured up there on the deck list. Night Stretcher. I'm going to throw 3 Night Stretchers in. Pretty useful considering we only have really 1 evolution line and potentially the Fezandipiti to just be able to pull them back as needed. It's another one where I kind of wish I would have 4, but can't really make it. Prime Catcher seems like the way to go here. I just really... I'm not considering any other A-Spec here. Maybe a maximum belt, but I think we're okay with the Prime Catcher. Rare Candy, going with 3 of these bad boys. We want to be able to evolve those Gastlys into Gengars directly, but we do have 2 Haunters just in case. If you want to just maybe eliminate that middle evolution and throw in 4 Rare Candies in another card, be my guest. I think it's a little bit safer to go ahead and keep the 2 Haunters though. And then of course our tried and true 3 Ultra Balls. We want to be able to pull anything. Arven. So Arven is going to let us grab any item card. And this deck, as you see, plays a lot of items. You know, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of those were item cards. So about 7 or 8 cards on there. Different cards or items. So that's not bad. So we definitely want to pull those. And then we also have some Binding Mochis in there. So that's going to be the tool I pull. It does tempt me to put more tools in there. I initially had some TM evolutions in there. They didn't quite seem to fit, so I'm going to throw in those. We get 4 nice little Arvens in there. Boss's orders, 3 of them. We have a Prime Catcher, so that acts as our 4th. And then Iono. In a disruption deck, there's nothing like a good Iono to mess with your opponents, especially late game when we're moving energies off of an active, because a lot of times Gengar is not going to one-shot. And if we're not careful, sometimes he's not even going to 2-shot some of these 330 HP Pokemon because he's only hitting for 160 base. Janine's Secret Art. Now this one is going to help us do 2 things. It'll help us load up our Pokemon. A lot of times I may honestly want to use this on my bench, but it is going to help us with our Binding Mochis, which we have 3. So that's going to at least get our Gengar up to dealing 200 damage, which honestly seems like a big jump between 160 and 200. 200 is going to make sure that you eliminate any Pokemon in 2 hits, unless they're throwing a Hero's Cape on, which we don't see a ton of. Then obviously he still might not get a Charizard, but pretty much anything is going to be taken out in 2 hits with our Binding Mochi and Janine's Secret Art to poison ourselves. The last one in here is another little disruption card of Xerosic Machinations. It really will force your opponent to decide what they want to keep in hand, knowing that they may have an energy moved off of their active Pokemon, if not for a knockout. So that is kind of quick and dirty on what we've got in this deck. And strategy, strengths, and weaknesses here. So the strategy is extremely simple. Evolve Gengars, disrupt your opponent, profit. One of the simplest. I mean, I always feel like I get some videos where the strategy is very simple, but this one even more so than any, because really we've got a Fezandipiti on our bench if it's not prized. We don't even have a Nest Ball to grab him. So we're really just focusing on evolving those Gengars. Flood your bench with them, evolve them all. Look, the retreat cost is 2. They are your attackers, so don't be scared to do that, even if you've got some ready. Like a lot of decks, if I have 3 EX already ready to go, then I might stop evolving because I don't want to, you know, maybe risk not being able to get enough energy on one or something like that. But in this case, because of the Gnawing Curse, just go ahead and throw them all out there. Remember, they stack. If you somehow, which I have never done, but you know what, we can talk about utopias. If you've got all 4 out there and your opponent attaches an energy from hand, that's 80 damage. Think about that. That's pretty crazy. So it's not bad if you can get them. The more the merrier. So if you can just throw in, 4 of them, and then you get your Fezandipiti to help you draw, then we're in pretty good shape. Then disrupt your opponent, whether you're using Xerosic, we're using Crushing Hammers, or just Tricky Steps is moving an energy onto one of their benched Pokemon, and hopefully it's a benched Pokemon that's not going to be able to attack, or that they're not looking to attack with, right? Strengths, it's very straightforward. It's rather consistent as well. I didn't put that there, but it is a straightforward and rather consistent deck. More so because we're going to mulligan until we get our Gastly for the most part. Maybe sometimes we'll get the Fez only, but that's okay. The downside on that is that we have 5 basic Pokemon, so we may mulligan a lot with this deck, but that's alright. It's very disruptive, and Gengar's pretty beefy. If we can get him up and out there, you really want to focus on evolving him, because we don't want to deal with bench damage, getting our Gastlys knocked out immediately when we're facing Dragapult and things like that. But once you get the Gengar EXs evolved, pretty beefy deck, and it's going to be hard to knock them out. Weakness, lack of Pokemon. Very, very lack of Pokemon. It's a strength and a weakness at the same time. It's very inflexible. If they can figure out how to just eliminate your Gastlys before you get them evolved, like, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. So that can be tough, and it really doesn't hit very hard. It kind of needs a lot in order to hit hard. Like, we don't have a Pecharunt that's just going to poison them and put a Mochi on. We need to get a Mochi. We need to use a Janine Secret Art. So it's a little bit there, but you know what? It works. I've had a lot of fun with it. Let's talk about some other cards to consider swapping into the deck. First off, I've already mentioned it once, is the Pecharunt EX. It would give you another basic Pokemon. It would give you some damage as well, with the Irritated Outburst as a late game kind of sneaky move, especially when we've got things like our Janine Secret Arts and things like that. That wouldn't be extremely challenging to get those 2 energies on it in one turn. So that's really one to think about, and I just couldn't find a way. Like, I feel like I need everything else. Like, maybe if you want to sacrifice some of this disruption, maybe go with it, but that's kind of up to you. Let me know in the comments what you all think of that, right? It's not up here, but we can think about Dark Patch still being around for slightly little bit more time, not a ton, but I didn't put it on the list, but hey, I've got a picture of it, so we'll throw it in there. Then we have Dusknoir, another one that's good, considering our Gengar's not hitting extremely hard, then we can get in that Dusknoir evolve. We've got some rare candies in there and evolve him, but to me it would waste some of our rare candies. Kind of tough. If you did do that, then maybe you would want to throw in some more Gengar and maybe go with the middle evolution as well of the Dusknoir, and kind of go with that full route and thinking about TM evolutions. It would really change how this deck looks. So I don't know how big a fan, but it's an idea. That's what we do here. We're just talking. I forget what they say. Anyway, then we got Giovanni's Charisma, Gio's Riz. This one was one I really wanted to get in this deck. I feel like it would be a really nice card because our Gengar's already moving an energy off. If they've got 2 energy, then we can use Gio's Riz, and we can put an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon in their hand. And then if we do attach an energy from our hand to our active, this one maybe would be one to consider taking out Xerosic for. If we really want to go all in on the energy disruption, it might be one to do. And the more I think about it, the more I consider. But I don't know. I feel like hand locking is really good. It might be a little bit better, so I'm on the fence. Speaking of hand locking, we still also have a consideration of hand trimmer. Not quite as good as the 0-6. It does get each player down to 5. But it's something to think about. Maybe instead of the 0-6, considering Xerosic is a supporter, this is an item. We can, maybe Iono into it. I don't know. Why would you do that? There's something going to cost them 1 max. I don't know. Meh. Pokemon League headquarters. This one is another one that I really wanted to get in there. We're not seeing a ton of basics, but we see a decent amount there to where having them cost 1 more energy and then using Gengar's ability, it could cause them to just not be able to attack you. So another one to really think about putting in. And then finally, Super Rod. You may consider Super Rod over some of your Night Stretchers or maybe some other ones, you know, just to be able to make sure we get more in there. You know, if we're dealing with Dragapult, you know, he may be taking out 2 of our Gastlys faster than we can get them evolved. So it's always nice to have that, but I like the Night Stretcher. Give me the instant. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Hawks Pokemon Nest. Hope you enjoyed this deck with Gengar. I feel like this one, compared to many others, has a lot of different directions to go, and I'm less confident, to be quite honest, that it's optimized, despite actually working quite a bit with it, because I was hoping that TCG Live would get fixed. So I was already working on this. The deck didn't work because TCG Live was broken for the week that I made this video, so I even had a little bit of extra time, but just didn't feel just didn't feel like changing it too much compared to what I had. Gengar is one of my favorite Pokemon, y'all, so I would love to get a really good, successful Gengar deck. So let me know in the comments if you've got a Gengar deck, what your list is looking like. If I gave you any ideas from the some of these other cards to swap in or out, let me know what you think. And please hit that subscribe button so you can become part of the Hawks Nest, a fabulous and fearless flock of folks who love to do what they love. I like making these videos. Thank you all again for the 50 subscribers. And if you're not quite ready to fly yet, though, that's all right. We will show up in an algorithm near you in the near future. If maybe, you know, just leave a comment, share with your friends, give it a little like. But until then, we'll see you next time.